Tonight, Canada's premiers go to Washington to curb Trump's tariff talks. What does Trump's steel and aluminum tariff mean for Saskatchewan? For the love of the game, we check out the Saskatoon Blind Hockey League.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Tuesday, February the 11th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Hi there, thank you for joining us. Canada's premiers are in Washington this week. They are on a joint mission, meeting with U.S. lawmakers after President Donald Trump announced 25% levies on all steel and aluminum imports. Their goal? Convince Trump to drop tariff threats against our country.
No matter if it's Democrat or Republican, I have yet to hear one elected official down here and say, that's a great idea. Let's attack Canada economically. It's never been said.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford was speaking at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. He said a trade war would threaten the crucial relationship that benefits both countries. All 13 provincial and territorial leaders will be in the U.S. Capitol Wednesday for a series of meetings and events. Trump announced he would impose 25% levies on all steel and aluminum imports starting early next month. Here in Saskatchewan, we're getting a better idea of how people here may be affected. Alexander Kwan brings us reaction.
Saskatchewan's construction industry is keeping a close eye on the United States after President Donald Trump confirmed 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports. The CEO of the province's construction association says the industry is reliant on a supply chain from the states.
Can we supply it from elsewhere? I think we can, and certainly that would be a focus, but that would take some time to sort that out. And, you know, in the immediate, there's concerns about cost escalation.
Construction won't be the only industry challenged by this. Steel producers like Evraz in Regina are likely to take a hit. The president of Pro Metal Industries in Regina admits the U.S. tariffs will not directly affect his business. They focus on metal fabrication. Still, he's looking for a silver lining.
Nothing good can come with tariffs. It's an economic disruption on supply chain and everything. But if I have to look at the positive, it creates us as a Pro Metal and us as consumers to look internally. What do we have in Canada?
One expert says the steel and aluminum tariffs and the threat of broader tariffs should force Canada to reassess its reliance on the United States.
We've either got to figure out how to restore our trading relationship with the U.S., or we've got to move really fast as we possibly can, to find other outlets for our natural resources and maybe work a little harder at adding value to them before we sell them on into the world.
As for retaliation, Regina Qu'Appelle Conservative MP Andrew Scheer says it's an option on the table.
We absolutely call on retaliatory tariffs, and that any funds collected from tariffs on American steel and aluminum be used to support the workers whose jobs are going to be affected.
But Jason Childs says a retaliatory tariff on steel or aluminum isn't likely to help Canada's economy.
If we want to retaliate, if that's necessary for our national pride, fine. But no, it's going to cost a lot. It's going to hurt.
The U.S. steel and aluminum tariffs are set to go into effect March 12th. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
And among all this, let's not forget about the looming tariff threat on all Canadian goods. Some Americans in border communities are voicing their concerns. Helena Mahalik has that story.
Residents of Minot, North Dakota, an hour from the Canadian border, are expressing frustration, confusion, and at times some optimism over the tariff dispute. CBC spoke to several customers outside a Target last week. That was after Trump delayed the blanket tariffs on all goods, but before he imposed the steel and aluminum tariffs. Nina Lindstrom is worried the dispute is scaring away Canadians who normally shop south of the border.
Well, I think we're going to lose customers from Canada coming down to the U.S. I mean, they're a good part of our businesses down here.
We've always had good relations with Canada, so I hope we don't wreck that by producing tariffs on it.
U.S. resident Anthony Stanton disagrees. He says the tariffs, if wielded correctly, could bring much-needed security upgrades to the border. Donald Trump has repeatedly claimed that guns and drugs are flowing in from Canada, while Canadian law enforcement agencies say it's the other way around.
The pouring of fentanyl across our border is a pretty big deal. I've lost a few friends, and something needs to happen, and I think this is one step in the right direction.
This Saskatchewan man was shopping when we came across him. Donald Holinati lives in Estevan. He says the tariff dispute is a lose-lose situation.
We're neighbors. We love the U.S. Coming down here from Canada today, from Saskatchewan, we see the Canadian flag on the North Dakota side. That means a lot. The relationships we've built over the years means a lot more than the unfortunate political fight that we're in between right now.
Trump says more tariffs are coming, while the Canadian government warns a trade war could drive up consumer prices and hurt the economy south of the border too. Helena Mahalik, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Ottawa has named a former senior Mountie to be the federal point person on fighting the spread of fentanyl. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Kevin Brosseau's role as fentanyl czar will involve working closely with U.S. counterparts to accelerate Canada's efforts to disrupt the illicit trade. Brosseau served as RCMP Deputy Commissioner and the senior Mountie in Manitoba. More recently, he was Deputy National Security and Intelligence Advisor to the Prime Minister. Donald Trump is citing the illegal flow of migrants and drugs, including fentanyl, for his tariff threats. RCMP have released the names of the 4 people killed on Carry the Kettle, Nakota Nation last week. They are 34-year-old Tracy Horamani, 44-year-old Sheldon Quiwizance, 47-year-old Shauna Fay, and 51-year-old Terry Jack. Police say all 4 of them were shot and killed in a home on the First Nation last Tuesday, February 4th. RCMP have released the names in the hopes of helping with the investigation. Officers have canvassed the First Nation, but no charges have been laid. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. After spending hours in an emergency room, a Saskatoon woman is challenging the Premier and the Health Minister to go sit and observe in an ER for at least 8 hours. Fran Forsberg reached out to the Saskatchewan NDP for support. She says she went to the Royal University Hospital ER twice within the last 3 weeks. She was there to get help for a youth with mental health issues. Forsberg waited more than 8 hours to see a doctor, and in that time was shocked by what she saw.
While we were sitting there, I witnessed a woman who sat there at least 6 hours that I witnessed have a heart attack right in the waiting room. I witnessed somebody bleed out from wounds and pass out, blood everywhere. And I saw a woman, an elderly woman, that had been transported to RUH in an ambulance, and she asked after 6 or 8 hours, I'm not sure, to be transported home, back home by ambulance. And the nurse said to her, "We can't do that, it's gonna cost." She said, I will pay the cost to go home in an ambulance after not even being seen.
Forsberg says she reached out to the NDP because the government has not responded to her in the past. She says she's heard the stories about the healthcare system, but calls what she saw, quote, horrendous. The government did not respond to requests for comment. Cervical cancer patients in our province now have access to a new treatment option. It's a specialized, targeted form of radiation therapy that's considered the gold standard of care. And until now, patients had to go out of province for it.
I would say my job satisfaction has improved instantly since being able to offer this. And a real element of stress in our jobs was finding centers across the country to send these patients for this aspect of their treatment. It's a lot better, I think, as a physician for us to be putting our energy into the actual treatment instead of into finding somebody else to do the treatment for us.
The new treatment is called the Interstitial High Dose Rate Gynecological Brachytherapy Program. The Saskatchewan Cancer Agency says it will be helpful to about 65% of patients with cervical cancer in our province. 20 patients will receive the treatment each year. This is just phase 1 of the program. The cancer agency says future phases will expand treatment options to other kinds of gynecological cancers. The procedure is only available in Saskatoon right now, and the first patient has already been treated. There are plans to expand it to Regina in the future. Oh, you know it is cold when the dog parks in Regina are not full of happy pups playing and running and burning off all of their cabin fever. Are we not all getting some kind of cabin fever at this point? Well, this owner and their dog seem unfazed by what is a pretty extreme cold. It was a little nicer during the day. That cold weather system is really dragging on through the province. Ethan Williams will have an update on your full forecast after the break. Stay with us for that. Travel agencies across Canada are reporting that hundreds of people are canceling their trips to the U.S. It comes in response to the tariffs. As Michelle Gussoub reports, there's a concern for thousands of American jobs.
When I travel, I'll be telling people I'm from Canada.
A surge in Canadian pride brought on by a potential looming trade war with the U.S.
I don't like his politics, the way that he's treating Canadian people or Canada.
It's not just a war of words. This travel agent says Canadians are canceling trips to the U.S. in droves.
But this time definitely feels different. This has been a much more tangible reaction from clients who are actually outright canceling trips.
The potential dollar impact of those cancellations is big. According to the U.S. Travel Association, a 10% dip in inbound travel from Canada could translate to $2.1 billion in lost spending and jeopardize 140,000 American jobs.
In most destinations in the U.S., Canada is the #1 international market. So looking at places like Las Vegas, Palm Springs, Orlando, Phoenix, a lot of those Sunbelt destinations are going to be hit really hard.
Those in the travel industry say the weak Canadian dollar was already impacting U.S. travel. The economic threats have many Canadians saying anywhere but the U.S.
Canadians are taking a stand in solidarity. They're showing Americans, or rather the U.S. administration, where they're going to spend their tourism dollars.
So far, it's hard to put a figure on how many trips have been canceled. Data from Statistics Canada and the U.S. Bureau of Transportation don't yet reflect the last 2 weeks. But the message in the travel industry is clear.
When I've been speaking to some of our customers, what I'm hearing a lot is trust. The trust has been broken. I think that's just the same word that I keep hearing over and over again. And they're just not feeling safe to travel there right now.
Canadians staying close to home in the face of so much uncertainty. Michelle Gussoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now in its third season, the Saskatoon Blind Hockey League continues to grow. The players range from potential national team members to those just learning to skate. It's the hockey we all know and love with a few quirks.
It is almost the same, however there are some adaptations. First of all, the net is smaller. It's about a foot shorter, I believe. And that's just for obvious reasons with the goalie, because they're 100% blind and they can't hear the puck in the air very much. The second adaptation would be the puck, which is roughly around 3 times bigger than regular puck. In game, you have to make one clean pass after you cross the blue line, and then you're able to score.
Really, when you watch the game, the only difference is they might overskate the puck, or if they go to make a pass, they might have to sweep twice because they missed the puck once. But really, the only difference is the goalie is fully blindfolded or I think at least partially blind or fully blind, or wears a blindfold. and the net's just a little bit smaller to make scoring a little harder for those snipers.
Roughly around 12 years ago, I discovered Courage Canada, which was originally what blind hockey started out to be. And then it kind of just disappeared and didn't hear much about it. And then a couple years ago, I discovered it again, and we developed a program in Saskatoon.
My name is Emma, and I play blind hockey. 2 years, and this is my 3rd year. Because you get to like hit pucks that make noise, and I get my dad on my team for like coaching. We play games and we practice our skating technique.
I want a challenge, and what's a better challenge than finding a new way to teach? It's kind of like teaching in a different language or teaching a different subject. It's the same sort of subject, but you have to think of new ways to teach it.
To make the Canadian national blind hockey team. They have training camps and tournaments. I'm considered as a prospect of the team, so sometimes they call me up and invite me to some of those tournaments, and it's very competitive, but it's very fun and very inclusive.
I love that you never know what's going on at the rink until you ask some questions. Our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins us now. I have some questions about the weather, but you know what? It's not that bad.
Yeah, well, you know, we got a little bit of a reprieve wind-wise today across the province, definitely, and that made it all that much more tolerable, I think, for a lot of us. Didn't quite take your breath away, that cold, as much as it has maybe the last couple of days here. But yeah, the other day I was mentioning about how, you know, we've seen -20, below -20 conditions across the province in Regina and Saskatoon. And in Regina and Saskatoon, we've actually broken the average number of days that we normally don't get above -20 during the day in the month of February. And that made me look back at some previous Februaries that have had some very cold weather in both Regina and Saskatoon. And if you look back at February of 2019, we actually had 12 days in that entire month where we never got above -20 during the day. And then you had jumped to February of 2021, another very cold February where we had 9 days. And then you compare that to so far what we're seeing in February 2025, and both cities have seen 3 days so far. But keep in mind, the forecast with this cold stretch is calling for possibly 10 of those days by the end of that stretch next week. And that takes us only about halfway or so through February. So there's still lots of February to go. But the good news is some of us did escape the grasp of -20 as we went through Tuesday, including a place like Cornac and Val-Marie, just getting above that into those upper minus teens. But for many of the rest of us, we were kind of in those low to mid -20s once again. And even through northern Saskatchewan, we did actually get a bit of a reprieve, especially in western sections. But the cold is returning again as we head into Tuesday night, and extreme cold warnings are back in place for all of south and central Saskatchewan. And that is happening because the cloud cover that we've had in parts of the province is starting to break away, and this area of high pressure is going to come right on in, clear things out, really drop the temperatures. That moves out pretty quickly as we head into tomorrow, but again, I think south and central looking for a mostly sunny day while the north stays cloudy. A little bit of low pressure moving in for early on Thursday morning will bring some cloud cover through, but then things start to clear out through the north Friday as we get another area of high pressure with some lingering cloud cover in southern sections. But winds, good news, won't be picking up all that much, even with that area of low pressure moving through. So we won't have too much of a wind chill to factor in, albeit probably going to be feeling around -30 through these next few days here. And there you go, there's that stretch of -20s that we're expecting all the way to a week from now, next Tuesday. And Saskatoon, essentially the same thing shaping up here. Again, overnight lows staying pretty close to the -30 mark there as well, at times feeling close to -40. So I think we'll watch for extreme cold warnings staying in place. So, you know, the first half of February cold, Sam, but maybe there's hope for the latter half.
I will just focus on the sunbeams and the warm spots in the house.
Yeah, agreed.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Everybody loves a dog, and they don't care who we are, what we have. They just love us, and we love them. That's why I'm here today.
So cute. In some competitions, being top dog or an underdog isn't always the point. It's the final day of the 149th Westminster Dog Show in New York. This year attracted more than 2,500 contenders, over 200 breeds. The prestigious show took off in the 1870s. It is the second oldest sporting event in the States, only topped by the Kentucky Derby. We'll be back after the break. Google says it has changed the name of the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America for U.S. users accessing Google Maps. The company changed it after Donald Trump signed a proclamation on Sunday. It was one of many executive orders from Trump since taking office. For 4 centuries, the site has been referred to as Gulf of Mexico. In Mexico, users will still see the original name. The rest of the world will see both. A new survey suggests the GST holiday that ends on Saturday has not had much of an impact on sales. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business got over 2,000 responses from small and medium businesses. Only 5% of them in a survey saw a bump in sales compared to the same time last year. It was higher among those in the hospitality sector at 14%. CFL free agency opened up Tuesday afternoon with a flurry of deals across the league, but just 2 here in Saskatchewan, one being the signing of O-lineman Philippe Gagnon, who previously was in Montreal. The Riders also announced signing a short yardage quarterback specialist, Tommy Stevens. At 6'4" and 245 pounds, the big-bodied pivot has spent the last 3 years with the Stampeders. In 2024, he rushed for a league-high 10 touchdowns and 237 yards rushing. He joins Trevor Harris, former Stamps teammate Jake Meyer, Jack Cohn, and Michael Hires as quarterbacks on the current roster. And Ethan is back with one last look at your weather. It's nice to see football in warmer days ahead.
Yeah, we can only hope that those come quicker after all this cold we've been seeing. But yeah, for tonight, well, tough to go outside and do anything because extreme cold warnings back in place. Low to mid-minus 30s for a lot of south and central. Wind chills likely into the minus 40s as we see kind of partly to mostly clear skies as that high pressure moves in and clears away the clouds. Northern Saskatchewan still dealing with some cloud cover overnight, but we're still looking at those temperatures into the minus 30s. Again, I think we're shaping up for another similar day Wednesday, where temperatures in western sections of the Churchill region may get above the minus 20 mark, but we're still hanging on to cloud cover and cooler temperatures further eastward and through south and central. Again, especially for the eastern half of the region, we're looking at temperatures hanging back into those mid-minus 20s. May crack the minus 20 mark though again, Sam, through southwestern Saskatchewan. At least we'll have a mostly sunny day.
As someone who walks to work, do you have any tips for people to stay warm?
Be brave.
That's fair.
And just stay warm.
Be brave and stay warm. Good advice. All right, that is it from us. Thanks so much for watching.